Welcome to BA131, Introduction to Business Technology. My name is Paul Wheatcraft. I'll be your instructor for this course. We'll be covering a lot of material. I think you'll find a lot of it very interesting. Some of it will be done online, like this video you're watching, and some will be done in class. So let's jump right into Chapter 1. Like most chapters at the beginning of a textbook, Chapter 1 is really an introduction to the course itself and some basic terms and concepts. The first question that comes up is, why should you even study information systems? Well, the obvious answer is because it's required. BA131 is one of the required classes. But there's actually some really positive reasons that you would want to study this as you look forward to your career. The first is that it makes you a better informed user. You can talk more intelligently within your organization when you understand some of the concepts. If you're so inclined, IT offers a lot of career opportunities. With the explosion of the Internet of Things, there are a lot of new positions that really are difficult to fill right now. There just are not enough people that understand technology for what business requires. And the third bullet point the author lists there is just so you can better manage all the information resources. Whether you're directly involved in the IS department or just a manager that is using the tools that are available to you in your organization, the more you understand, the more effective you can be in using those tools and understanding their strengths and their limitations. One of the first concepts to understand is the transformation of raw data into something that's useful in business. So we start with the data as depicted in the picture there, a bunch of ones and zeros. It's just numbers. The numbers don't really tell you anything until you organize those numbers in such a way that it can communicate to you some information. It's shown there on an airport with a arrival departure. It's organized by city that you're going to and time and the gate. And so all that information, all that data has been arranged in a pattern, in a manner that makes it easier for the traveler to understand where they need to go to catch their flight. Now the third part, the idea of knowledge, is a little different. Information is much better than data. Information, certainly you can now start to think about what does it mean and how can you use it. But if you don't have any direct application to your business, of what value is it? So the concept here is that when you take information and you further analyze it, organize it, slice and dice it in different ways to where it helps you make a business decision, at that point it becomes knowledge, useful to your organization. One of the terms you'll hear talked about, you may see as an abbreviation, FAIS, and in business we like to abbreviate stuff a lot and create acronyms. So a functional area information system, just the concept there is that each of our different departments in a business, such as accounting, finance, marketing, HR, they each have some unique requirements. And so over the years, they have developed information systems that really assist them in the activity that they're trying to accomplish. But it doesn't necessarily work well in a different department. So we have these optimized systems that work really well for the individual department. The problem is, as we get into it, when you have these, and they're typically called silos, is that it works well within the accounting department, but there's information that needs to be shared. There's some common bits of information that everybody needs to access. But if everyone is trying to maintain that information, it's very easy for that data to get out of sync. And we'll see in a later chapter some of the tools that can be used to maintain the database that you have to keep it current and accurate. But again, the functional area information system just refers to that concept that each department may have their own optimized solution that works just fine for them. IS is not limited to just our organization, as the author's diagram here shows. We've got the organization in the middle, but then you have suppliers, you have other businesses that you're working with, your customers. There's a lot of different things that the IS function, a lot of different organizations that the IS function needs to accommodate. Okay, at this point, I'm going to take a brief pause. Each week in the lecture video, there will be a password, and you'll need to have that password in order to unlock the quiz for that chapter. And you have to take the chapter quiz before you're able to access the other assignments, the written assignments, the discussions, and so forth. So this is an important piece. Right now, you need to, go through each of the lecture audio video recordings, at some point there will be this password displayed. Write it down so that you can then access the chapter quiz. If you don't have paper and pen, just press pause on your player so you can go and get it and write it down. And so now, if you've got it written down, great, we're going to go ahead. If you're still looking for a piece of paper and a pen or pencil, press pause. One of the questions that comes up as we've developed better and better information technology, how does that affect the number of middle managers required in our organizations? Well, one thing it does is it makes those middle managers much more productive. It used to be that a middle manager spent all their time every week gathering data from different sources, summarizing it, rearranging it, charting it, and plotting it for their manager to provide weekly or monthly reports to senior management. With the IT technology we have now, middle managers can produce those reports very quickly. In fact, they can even automate it to where you have real-time status of those reports at any time and give senior management access to it. And what that does is it frees up the middle manager. Instead of being a number cruncher all the time, that middle manager can be analyzing what's going on, monitoring it, seeing how are sales going, do we need to increase our orders on our vendors, do we need to start hiring some additional factory workers. It really frees up that middle manager. But along with that, if you've got your managers freed up to focus on it, you don't need as many of them as you did before. And so one of the areas that really in the last 15 years that has shrunk in industry are the middle managers. That whole segment has been vastly reduced in the number required. But when you look at a manager's job, the most important thing a manager does is to make a decision. And IT really affects the ability of the manager to make those decisions. It changes the way managers make decisions because it can provide you near real-time or actual real-time information to make those quick decisions. And that's good because in today's global economy, things move so quickly, so fast, that managers don't have time to spend days and weeks analyzing something to make a decision. You're making decisions, on the fly with very little time to do thorough analysis, and that's where you really need the power of computers to do a lot of different number crunching and showing you things in different ways so that you can make that decision very rapidly. And with that, you can also leverage some of the decision-making tools in technology that will actually take, and based on the parameters you've set up, it will come up and it'll give you the decision that really is being indicated that you need to do, without you even having to then do the analysis, because you pre-programmed it in under these conditions. Here's what we need to do. Here's how we should view that information. So does IT eliminate jobs? Certainly. There are some jobs that can be done better by a computer through automation, whether it's a robot or just raw number crunching. So there are some positions that don't survive. IT does eliminate it. But because we have increased the technology in business, we also have created a lot of new jobs. And those jobs require employees with IT knowledge and skills. And so while some positions have gone away, we've created more positions. And actually the positions we've created are at a higher skill level and therefore at a higher pay rate than the jobs that have been eliminated. IT impacts employees at work. Absolutely. One of the great things that IT does is that it improves employees' health and safety. But it also has some negative impacts. For example, job stress. If you're certainly worried about if your job's going to be replaced by, technology, that adds a lot of stress. The more that we use computers, yet we have issues with eye strain. And the more that we rely on computer systems, we can develop some bad habits where we're sitting all day, and that's not healthy. Long-term use of keyboards and of mice can lead to some real issues. You may have heard of carpal tunnel syndrome, where the repetitive motion used by your hands with the mouse and with typing can actually inflame the nerve in your wrist and cause, it can be pretty painful. And I know firsthand, I've had carpal tunnel surgery in both my wrists because of work-related issues that were causing that. And so that's a problem too. Good news is we have developed solutions, ergonomic products that really minimize those downsides, those negatives. Things like are shown there with the wrist rest, so that reduces some of the strain. Things you can do with your feet. Desks that raise up so that you can work some of the time standing, so you're not sitting all the time. There's filters that can be put onto your monitors to reduce the glare. A lot of different things. And most organizations have individuals within the organization that are responsible for ergonomics, for identifying ergonomic solutions, and for making sure that employees have whatever they need to work safely. But one of the things I really like about IT is how it empowers people who would not otherwise be able to work. People who have a great mind that can contribute, but because of their physical disabilities in the past, they were excluded. We have computer solutions now for visually impaired, hearing impaired, motor impaired, the list goes on, and I think that's great that we have allowed people that previously were not able to participate, now they get to be a productive part of society. So certainly when we look at our quality of life, IT has changed it. And in this area, not for the better. Smartphones, great tool. They provide constant access. And the operative word there is constant. It used to be that you went to work at 8, you left work at 5. 8 to 5, work stayed at work. But now, really the lines between work time and leisure time have become blurred. And in fact, surveys indicate that a lot of employees take their laptops and smartphones on vacation to do work while they're on vacation. That's not really what vacation was intended for. So that's really an issue that we need to deal with as a society. And one of the things we'll talk about in class, the beauty of the technology we have is all of them that I have seen have this marvelous feature built into them called the off switch. And really what we need to do is to turn off devices more and set some boundaries as to when we can be available for work and when we need to be not available, off the grid. We're going to look in class at some examples of how robotics are being used. They're really found in a lot of different areas, from manufacturing to hospitals, even farming. Self-driving tractors that are using a GPS system to go out and do the tilling in the field. They're finding applications for robotic controlled devices in just about every area, including our homes. You can I'm sure you've seen the Roomba ads on television or social media to vacuum your floor, or they have a different one to wash floors or to clean pools. And there's even a robotic lawnmower that will periodically just go out and it zigzags around your yard and cuts your grass. Another one of the really positive things I like about what's happened with technology is in healthcare. Better IT really allows for better and faster diagnostic decisions by the physicians. With access to your medical records electronically, they can better make a diagnosis. They can look at other people with similar symptoms and how did they respond to certain treatments. So there's a lot of improvement in healthcare that comes by managing the information on people's medical health. Now, of course, that raises some concerns about the privacy, and that's why the HIPAA laws were created to ensure that your medical information is being used only to assist the doctors in helping you to overcome whatever medical issue you have. Another aspect, certainly critically ill patients. You may need to monitor them 24/7, but it could be very expensive to have a nurse dedicated to just, sitting in the room watching that patient constantly. Instead, put some technology in place. That nurse can be roving among dozens of patients, and the equipment will track everything and alert the nurse only when there's an issue. And it's one of the things we'll cover later chapter in dashboards when you start looking at exception reporting. The idea of saying, if everything is normal, I don't need to do anything, I don't need to notify anyone. It's only if something is not within the bounds that we have set, then you call in the resources. Another aspect is with better IT tools, we can facilitate the study of potentially new drugs and the implementation much faster than it has been in the past. Getting a new drug approved has been a very time-consuming, laborious process in the past, and so getting that new treatment to the patients that need it sooner is a very positive thing. One of the things I thought was interesting, this concept of using virtual reality. So a surgeon could take, and before they operate on you, when it's going to be a really complex, tricky operation, they could practice using virtual reality and try different approaches, different ways of doing it. I think that's a great way of leveraging technology. Being able to have a do-over and say, that didn't work so well. Let's go back and let's try doing it this other way. So another aspect with that technology, of course, is that the surgeon doesn't actually have to be in the room with you anymore. Using robotics, you could have a surgeon located distantly. As we'll see in class with some videos, there have been surgeries performed around the other side of the world. The surgeon was in Los Angeles and the surgery was performed, I believe, in India. And the advantage there, you say, well, why would you do that? Well, you do it because you don't have highly skilled doctors everywhere in the world. It's challenging to have that level of medical coverage, but it's much more plausible to have a robot in some of these less dense areas around the world, and then you have the specialist then can access the robot when needed. And so it really opens up better healthcare to areas of the world that have been underserved in the past just due to the logistics of getting a doctor there. Okay, that's chapter 1. I look forward to seeing all of you in person.